My dad's secret daughter showed up unannounced at my wedding, and I had no idea who she was. By the end of the night, my entire understanding of my family, and my father, was shattered. Ever since I was a little girl, I had this image in my head. My wedding would be the happiest day of my life. The white dress, the fairy lights, my mom tearing up as I walked down the aisle, my dad beaming with pride beside me. I clung to that image through every heartbreak, every awkward first date, every lonely night wondering if I'd ever find someone who truly saw me. And when I met Michael, all those puzzle pieces fell into place. He was kind, grounded, and more patient than I probably deserved. After 2 years together, he proposed on a quiet hilltop during sunset. It felt like a movie. Planning the wedding started almost immediately. I wasn't the type to procrastinate, especially not on something I had been dreaming about since I was 10. We booked a vineyard an hour outside the city, charming, rustic, with just the right amount of fairy tale atmosphere. The guest list was intentionally small, just close friends and family. I wanted warmth, not spectacle. But above all, I wanted peace. No family drama, no unexpected chaos, just love. Which, in hindsight, is hilarious. Now here's the thing about my dad. He was always present, but not involved. He showed up to my school plays, but never stayed long. He remembered birthdays, but usually sent a gift through my mom. Growing up, I assumed that was just how dads were. Distant, busy, providing from the background. It wasn't until I got older that I realized how carefully he kept himself on the edges of my life. We'd have coffee, maybe twice a year. Small talk that never ventured too deep. I didn't question it much. Some families are just like that, right? So when my dad offered to contribute financially to the wedding, I was surprised. Not just surprised, genuinely touched. He insisted on covering the cost of the venue, no strings attached. It felt like his way of saying, "I'm here for this. I'm proud of you." It made me emotional in a way I wasn't expecting. For the first time, it felt like he was stepping into the center of my life, even if just briefly. My mom was happy too. She thought it was a good sign that maybe he was trying to make up for lost time. Looking back, I think she wanted to believe that as much as I did. But about 3 weeks before the big day, I noticed something was off. At first it was small. He started showing up late to vendor meetings, something he'd been oddly enthusiastic about. He canceled our brunch last minute, which wasn't a huge deal, but he didn't even offer an excuse, just said something had come up. Then I noticed he was glued to his phone all the time. He'd get these texts and his whole expression would change. He'd excuse himself, go outside, pace around while talking in hushed tones. I figured it was work. He's a real estate guy, always juggling clients, paperwork, whatever. Still, there was this tension in his shoulders, this nervous energy that didn't match his usual calm. One day, during our final walkthrough of the venue, he seemed completely distracted. We were talking about table layouts and he was just nodding, not really listening. I asked him if everything was okay. He smiled and said, "Just a lot on my plate right now. Don't worry about me, kiddo." I tried to believe him. I really did. I didn't want to be the bridezilla who made everything about herself. And truthfully, I had a million other things on my mind. Final dress fitting, confirming the DJ playlist, figuring out how to tell Aunt Karen that, yes, the reception would be vegetarian. I didn't have the bandwidth to go chasing down a weird feeling about my dad. But the unease lingered. It was in the way he looked at me sometimes, like he was holding back something heavy. It was in the way he dodged conversations about family seating or plus ones. There was one moment in particular that I keep replaying in my head. We were going over the guest list, and I mentioned that we had a few empty seats left, just enough for last-minute additions. His eyes lingered on that page a little too long. Then he asked, "You're sure you want to keep it small?" I laughed, saying, "Yeah, I don't need a big circus, just the people who matter." He nodded, but something flickered in his expression. I couldn't name it at the time. Guilt, regret, who knows. 3 weeks out from my wedding, I still believed it was going to be the perfect day. I still believed I knew everyone who'd be there. I still believed my dad was just nervous about giving a speech or seeing my mom again after years of polite distance. I had no idea that my life, my family, was about to unravel right there on the most important day of my life. I didn't see the storm coming, but it was already heading straight for me. The morning of my wedding felt like something out of a dream. The sun came up golden, not too hot, not a cloud in the sky. My bridesmaids fluttered around the bridal suite, sipping mimosas and helping me into my dress, the room buzzing with nerves and excitement. My mom kept tearing up every few minutes, and I was doing everything I could to hold it together. I had spent months planning this day down to the smallest detail, from the rustic flower arrangements to the handwritten place cards. I had orchestrated every moment like a conductor guiding a symphony. Everything had to be perfect. And for a while, it was. The ceremony started on time. Michael was already at the altar, his eyes fixed on me as I walked down the aisle with my heart pounding in my chest. My dad stood beside me, holding onto my arm, whispering how beautiful I looked. It should have been a moment of pure joy, but even then, in the middle of that perfect scene, I noticed something strange. There, in the front row, was a girl I didn't recognize. She sat next to my dad, wearing a soft lavender dress that didn't match either side of the bridal party. Her hair was styled in loose curls, her posture a little too stiff, like she wasn't sure she belonged there. I remember thinking maybe she was a coworker's daughter or someone's last-minute date, but what unsettled me most was her face. She looked familiar. Not like someone I'd met before, but like someone I might see in a mirror if I squinted. Same high cheekbones, same eyes. The kind of resemblance that makes your stomach twist, even if your brain can't catch up just yet. I shook it off. It was my wedding day. The last thing I wanted to do was get caught up over some stranger in the crowd, but the feeling stuck with me. An itch under the skin I couldn't reach. It wasn't until the reception that I saw her again, standing near the dessert table, nervously sipping a glass of champagne. By then, I'd gone through the first dance, cut the cake, hugged 24 relatives, and felt the tight band of my dress slowly suffocating me. Still, the mystery girl pulled at my attention like a thread I couldn't ignore. So I walked over. I smiled politely and asked, "Hey, I'm sorry, I don't think we've met. Are you a friend of the family?" She looked startled, like she hadn't expected to be approached. Her eyes darted toward my dad across the room, who was deep in conversation with one of my uncles. Then she looked back at me, took a breath, and said the words that would split my world open like a cracked mirror. "I'm his daughter. I guess that makes us sisters?" At first, I laughed. I actually laughed. I thought it was some sort of weird joke. Maybe she meant figuratively. Maybe it was an inside thing between her and my dad. Or maybe she'd had one too many glasses of champagne. But she didn't laugh back. She just held my gaze, serious, steady, waiting for me to catch up. My blood went cold. I stared at her, speechless. "What?" was all I could manage. She nodded slowly, biting her lip. "I know this is weird. I only found out about you a few months ago. I didn't even think I'd be here, but he invited me." The room spun, literally. The music, the lights, the chatter, it all became muffled, like I was underwater. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like it was echoing in my ears. I turned and scanned the room for my dad. He was laughing at something someone said, like everything was perfectly normal, like he hadn't just dropped a live grenade in the middle of my wedding. I walked straight over to him. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't have to. The look on my face must have said it all. His expression fell. He looked at the girl, then back at me. And in that split second, I knew it was true. She wasn't lying. She wasn't confused. She was telling the truth. He had another daughter, and he had invited her to my wedding, without telling a single soul. That's when the story really began to unravel. The reception carried on around me like nothing had happened. Glasses clinking, people laughing, the soft hum of music floating through the vineyard. But I was standing there, frozen, staring at my father like I'd never seen him before. And maybe I hadn't. Maybe the man I thought I knew was just a carefully constructed version, a mask he wore so well for so long that even I couldn't see through it. I didn't even know what to say. There was no script for this moment. How do you ask your father why he brought his secret daughter to your wedding like it was a casual family reunion? He knew he was caught. He gave me that guilty, heavy-lidded look I hadn't seen since I was a kid, usually reserved for small things, like forgetting a school event or being late for dinner. But this wasn't a forgotten recital. This was betrayal on a level I couldn't process. We stepped away from the crowd and into a quiet corner near the side of the venue, behind the photo booth and a row of tall planters. I didn't even wait for him to speak. "Is it true?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, afraid that saying it out loud would make it more real. He nodded, just a small, defeated nod. "Yes," he said. "Her name is Elise. She's my daughter." I felt sick. "Since when?" I managed to ask. His eyes dropped to the ground. "She's 21. I blinked hard, trying to do the math. 21. That meant he had been seeing someone else for nearly my entire life. My parents didn't even separate until I was in high school. My stomach twisted. "So, all these years," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady, "you've had another family." He didn't answer immediately. His silence was its own confession. Eventually he sighed, as if the truth weighed too much to hold anymore. "I met her mother a long time ago. It wasn't supposed to last, but it did. I never stopped loving either of you. I just didn't know how to make it right." The words felt hollow. He stood there trying to dress decades of deception in sentimental excuses. But nothing he said could change the fact that he had lived two lives, one in the open and one in the shadows, and we were both the collateral damage. "You brought her here without telling anyone," I said, the anger finally rising to the surface. "To my wedding, you let me walk down the aisle thinking everything was fine. You smiled at me, knowing this was all about to explode." He looked pained. "She wanted to meet you. I thought, maybe if you saw each other, it wouldn't be so hard. I wanted to bring you together." I stared at him in disbelief. "You thought my wedding was the time for a family reunion?" I didn't wait for an answer. I just turned and walked away. Back inside, Elise was still standing near the dessert table, clearly uncomfortable, clearly aware that the storm she didn't create was still her burden to carry. I looked at her and saw something I didn't expect. Fear. She wasn't the villain in this story. She was just as blindsided. She had no idea I even existed until recently. She told me later she begged her mom to let her meet our father, and when he mentioned the wedding, she saw it as a chance to know where she came from. Neither of us chose this. We were two strangers, linked by a lie, both trying to make sense of the same man, one who had spent his life pretending he could be in two places at once. And just like that, the wedding I had spent a year dreaming about became the day my family shattered. After the truth came out, everything blurred. My wedding reception carried on like nothing had happened, but I had checked out. I moved through the crowd like a ghost in a white dress. People smiled at me, clinked glasses, pulled me into photos, none of them knowing that my world had just been turned upside down. If it weren't for my best friend, Ava, pulling me aside and forcing me to breathe, I think I might have lost it right then and there. I hadn't even had a chance to tell my mom. She was dancing with her cousin when I finally walked over and asked her to come with me. We slipped into a quiet room the staff had set aside for wedding party storage. Just us. A few boxes, and a sofa that I sank into like the wind had been knocked out of me. "What's wrong?" she asked immediately. Her face dropped, reading my expression before I said a word. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Dad brought someone to the wedding. A girl. Her name's Elise. She's his daughter. She's 21. I expected confusion, disbelief, maybe even denial, but what I got was silence. And then, slowly, the color drained from her face. She knew. She didn't say it outright at first, but I saw it in her eyes. She slumped into the seat beside me and whispered, "I thought it was over." My heart cracked all over again. "You knew about her?" She nodded. "I found out years ago. I confronted him. He swore it was a mistake, that he wasn't in her life, that it didn't mean anything. I didn't want you to grow up hating him, so I never said anything." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Both of them had been keeping this massive secret from me for years. decades. They had made choices to protect me, but all it did was make the fallout worse. I got up and walked out, because there was only one person left to face: Michael. He was standing near the bar, laughing with his college friends, completely unaware of the storm brewing just outside his bubble. As I approached, he looked at me, and his smile immediately faded. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked, taking my hand. I didn't want to dump this on him, not today of all days, but I couldn't keep pretending. "There's something I need to tell you," I said, pulling him away from the crowd. I gave him the short version. My dad had another daughter, she was here, and my mom had known about it too. Michael didn't say much at first, he just pulled me into a hug and held me. He told me it didn't change anything between us, that I was still his wife, and today was still our day no matter how messy everything else got. But I could feel it. The weight of the secret bleeding into everything. We couldn't rewind. The illusion was broken. Later that night, after the last dance and the final sparkler send-off, I sat with my dad alone near the vineyard's edge. The moon was high, the guests were gone, and all the pretending had faded. "I need to know one thing," I said. "Did you ever think about what this would do to me?" He looked down at his hands. "Every day. I just kept hoping it wouldn't come to this. I thought maybe I could make it right." I shook my head. "You can't make it right by hiding everything. You can't fix a lie with another lie." Then I gave him a choice. "If you want any kind of relationship with me moving forward, it has to start with full honesty. No more secrets, no more quiet shame. That includes Elise. I'm not punishing her for your mistakes." He looked surprised but relieved. "You'd be okay getting to know her?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I'll try. She deserves that much." He nodded, and for the first time in a long time I saw something real in his eyes. Remorse. That night, I didn't cry over the wedding I lost. I cried for the family I thought I had, and the one I was only just beginning to understand. It's been a year since my wedding, the day that should have been the start of a new chapter, but ended up tearing open the oldest, deepest wounds in my family. In the days that followed, everything felt raw. The photos from that night showed smiles that no longer felt real. The bouquet still hung upside down in my closet, dried and forgotten. And my relationship with my dad? Strained didn't even begin to cover it. But time, I've learned, has a way of reshaping things. At first, I didn't speak to my dad at all. Not out of cruelty, but self-preservation. I needed distance to figure out how to rebuild trust that had been shattered. He gave me that space. He didn't push. He just sent the occasional message, an apology, a memory, a reminder that he was still here. It took 3 months before I finally agreed to meet with him, and Elise. We chose a coffee shop halfway between our homes. I arrived early, hands trembling, unsure what to expect. Elise walked in first, wearing a denim jacket and carrying a nervous smile. My dad followed close behind, older than I remembered him looking, like the truth had aged him overnight. We didn't talk about the past right away. We started with little things, coffee orders, books we were reading. Elise told me about college, her love for sketching buildings, how she always wondered where her stubborn streak came from. Turns out, we share it. It was awkward at first, but not hostile, just cautious, like we were all trying to learn a new language, one based on honesty, not secrecy. Since then, we've met a few more times, sometimes with Michael, sometimes just us girls. It's still weird, don't get me wrong. There are moments when the anger still bubbles up unexpectedly, when I remember the lies, the years I never knew I had a sister. But there are also moments of clarity, of connection, of a strange kind of hope. Because, here's the thing, family isn't just who we're told they are. It's not always neat or tidy or easy to define. Sometimes family is messy. Sometimes it's built from broken pieces. But if there's effort, if there's honesty, there's a chance to make something real out of the wreckage. I don't know what our family will look like in 5 years, but I know this, we're no longer pretending. And maybe that's the most honest kind of love we've ever had,